Hello, everyone. Today, we're exploring Exodus 3, a pivotal chapter where God reveals himself to Moses in a burning bush and calls him to lead the Israelites out of Egypt. This moment is filled with divine revelation, purpose, and God's faithfulness. Moses, now living in Midian as a shepherd, is tending the flock of his father in law, Jethro, also called Reuel. One day, he leads the flock to Mount Horeb, also known as the Mountain of God. There, he sees something extraordinary, a bush that is on fire but does not burn up. Curious, Moses approaches the bush, and God calls to him from within it. Moses, Moses, Moses responds, "Here I am." God tells Moses to take off his sandals because he is standing on holy ground. This moment is filled with awe and reverence as God reveals himself in a powerful way. He introduces himself as the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. This reminds Moses of God's covenant with his ancestors. God tells Moses that he has seen the misery of his people in Egypt and has heard their cries for help. He says, "I have come down to rescue them from the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them up out of that land into a good and spacious land, a land flowing with milk and honey." God then reveals his plan. He will send Moses to Pharaoh to bring the Israelites out of Egypt. Moses is overwhelmed and asks, "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt?" God reassures him, saying, "I will be with you." This promise of God's presence is central to Moses' mission and a reminder that God equips those he calls. Moses then asks God what he should say if the Israelites ask for his name. God replies, "I am who I am." This is what you are to say to the Israelites. "I am has sent me to you." This name, Yahweh, reveals God's eternal, self-existent nature and his faithfulness to his people. God also instructs Moses to gather the elders of Israel and tell them that he has heard their cries and will deliver them. He promises that they will not leave Egypt empty-handed, but will plunder the Egyptians, receiving silver, gold, and clothing. This promise reflects God's justice and provision for his people. Despite God's assurances, Moses is still hesitant. He worries that the Israelites will not believe him or listen to his voice. God responds by giving Moses 3 signs to perform: turning his staff into a snake and back into a staff, making his hand leprous and then healing it, turning water from the Nile into blood. These signs are meant to demonstrate God's power and confirm Moses' authority. Yet, Moses remains unsure, setting the stage for further conversations with God in the chapters to come. This moment shows Moses' humanity and his need for reassurance, but it also highlights God's patience and willingness to equip his chosen servant. So, what can we learn from Exodus 3? First, God reveals himself to us in ways that inspire awe and reverence. Second, his call often requires us to step out in faith, trusting his presence and promises. Finally, this chapter reminds us that God's plans are greater than our doubts and fears. Let's trust him to guide us and equip us for the tasks he gives us. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you in the next story.